Greetings, friends, and welcome to this edition of Tales from the Tabletop, the video series where I scour the internet and my own personal experiences to find you anecdotes of adventure, from the fun, the funny, the farcical, and the teachable moments, from Warhammer to D&D and everything in between, and I pick my favorite ones and illustrate them for your listening and viewing pleasure. Let's get started. Our first story today comes from Alexander, and Alexander writes, "In a campaign I was running, my party had just defeated one of the big bads at around the halfway marker of the overall campaign. Now, they knew this big bad was something of a trickster, who liked to taunt and toy with his victims, but he had been soundly beaten and run off with his tail between his legs. After the party raided his personal stash, they found a conspicuously expensive bottle of wine among his personal effects. I don't remember what I called it, but it was basically the last bottle from some ancient batch, and it was worth untold amounts of gold. So, to celebrate, our ranger, who is a bit of a booze hound, popped it open with the captain of the guard, an NPC, and downed it as a great big middle finger to the bad guy. Midway through that evening's celebration, both the ranger and the NPC captain started coughing up blood, and then proceeded to projectile vomit blood and die a pretty horrific death due to poison, after a few failed saves and the party not being able to help them. Now, the mistake wasn't that the ranger drank the wine. He was a borderline alcoholic. He would drink sewer water if you put it in a mug. No, the real mistake is that the party's barbarian had found a note earlier detailing that the wine was poisoned and intended to be a trap. But this barbarian couldn't read. He simply put the note in his pocket and said he would ask one of the literate members about the note in the morning. So pretty much right after the ranger was pronounced dead, the barbarian suddenly remembered it and handed the paper to the sorcerer. Sorcerer read the note aloud, and we all had a second moment of silence. Our next story comes from Lusk, and Lusk writes, "In a long campaign of Legend of the Five Rings, one of our players happened to be the GM's nephew. Like most teenagers, he was a pill, constantly saying and doing things just to aggravate his uncle and the rest of us. To cut a long story short, everyone was beginning to get fed up with him always wanting to do something different, always wanting to have the last word, always wanting to go the way none of the rest of us thought was a good idea. Finally, having reached his limit, the GM said, 'Nephew, 1,000 bats fly in the window and feast upon your flesh like piranhas. You're dead.' So, okay guys, he's dead. What do you all want to do next?" We laughed, we rejoiced, and we let him play again next week, but he finally understood something had to give. This next story is from Jeff, and Jeff writes, "My players love to hoard equipment. I have accidentally facilitated this by making magical deep pocket bags available for cheap. So they all have them. Some characters have multiples of them. One of my characters decided he needed to buy, of all things, a 6-foot ladder. And guess what? It fits! So now, whenever there is an interesting, unique, or difficult challenge that does not require combat, this player gets everyone's attention, gets the table completely silent, and says, 'Okay, this is going to be a tough challenge. We're going to need to marshal all of our wits to do this. We're going to need to whip out the 6-foot ladder.' The ladder has never been useful, But when the gauntlet is thrown, the ladder comes out, and all bets are off. So, after that, every time another character got a cool new piece of equipment or gadget, the other players would comment, it is cool, but it's no 6-foot ladder. Our next story is nice and short, and it comes from John. John answers the question, as a tabletop role-playing game player, what is the strangest experience you had when someone else discovered you played? John writes, about 10 years back, I was looking for a new hall for the Wednesday night gaming club, now gone with the wind, alas. I got a reaction from the local evangelical church when I asked if they could rent out their hall for the purpose of playing games, including that there Dungeons & Dragons. This is how I found out that there are still people who consider us Satanists. I have a personal story for you. Now, I have no doubt that this story is true because I've heard it from so many people in my personal life, and I've gotten reactions from certain people by just saying, yes, I play role-playing games, I play heavy metal music, it's a lot of fun, I wear a lot of black. It used to be a colorblind thing, but now it's more of a slimming thing. And I get my reactions, but fun fact, the reason that I play D&D and other role-playing games, and the reason that I was exposed to heavy metal at such a young age is because I'm the youngest of a very large family, and my cooler older brothers introduced me to all the cool stuff. Now, where did the cool older brothers learn this? Well, all of us took our turn being very active in our church's youth group. And it was on a youth retreat that my older brother played his very first game of D&D and was exposed to the masterpiece of heavy metal glory, Gwar. And if you don't know who Gwar is, here's a photo. And if you want to know what song to listen to get into Gwar, I recommend either Maggots or The Curse of Yig. Once you get past the bagpipe part, it becomes amazing. Speaking for myself personally, in that youth group, I found more support, love, and acceptance than I found at school or at my home. And that youth group is where I met a bunch of other D&D players and a bunch of other metalheads. It's where I met some people to have over to jam when I was first learning the drums. So, John's story is common and cliche and annoying and just poor guy, and I really feel it for everybody who is given the side eye when you mention that you have a hobby. And for what it's worth, me too. But it's also important to know that it's not the case all the time, not the case everywhere, and sometimes the opposite. I just wanted to share. Our next story comes from OK Reflection, and the title is Take Care of Your DMs. I had a great group when I was younger, with a DM that took the responsibility of teaching 5 new players, including myself, how to play. Daniel was awesome. He patiently taught us the rules and spent several years running a long-term game for us. We explored a homebrew world, fighting a group of big bads that frequently caused trouble around the world. We entertained the Fey courts, and a co-player even ended a duel to the death by pantsing an aggressive noble. I would like to hear that story, please. So, OK Reflections, if you can get back like that, that'd be nice. Like, drop it in the comments, send me an email. I'd love that. Daniel built sprawling storylines that delved into character backstories and helped us really find our voices. The dude was cool as hell. The horror story here was us players. Daniel gave subtle and not so subtle hints that he was burning out before the group just fell apart. We, as a group, ignored his needs. We never gave him a break, expecting a new fun session every week. Sure, we made half-ass attempts at one-shots, not really putting in the effort, and honestly hindering ourselves trying to be like him. Our last session ended with us fighting against time to solve a puzzle before an elder white dragon could reach us. In true burnout fashion, Daniel couldn't even describe the puzzle enough for us to understand how to even attempt to solve it. He sat there for 30 minutes while we rolled and discussed it before declaring that the dragon was upon us and breathing ice. It was the old rocks fall and everyone dies. No description of our death, no wrap-up before session's end. Daniel just picked up his stuff, said he was sorry, and walked away, and was no longer our DM. I miss playing with that guy every time I think about D&D. He really made those few years special. So, take care of your DMs. Let them play. Give their brain a break once in a while. Understand when they need more time to prepare, and don't be a jerk about it. DMing is rough sometimes, and everyone needs a breather. Jump in and offer to run a short campaign between acts. You'd be surprised how helpful having someone else to entertain the party for a few sessions can be, and it might give your special DM inspiration for your next adventure. So I had a DM like this, and it was another one of my older brothers. He ran, to this day, the best campaign I was ever a part of, ever. And this happened when I was in middle school, and I've had a lot of fun since then, but his was the first campaign that kept going and was thought out and did all the things. Good on him. My brother is a born storyteller, and he was a drama kid, so he really knew how to put himself into it. And he's a bit of a ham, so he knew when it's comedy time, he would ham it up a little bit and also pull back the reins. And taking care of your DM, giving them breaks, running a game for them once in a while, super good advice, great advice. It's one of the ways that you can show your appreciation, your support, and you can reciprocate the love that you've been getting from your special DM. Now, all that being said, something else is going on here that I have to bring up. And in fact, I don't have to bring up because the top commenter had the exact correct point, and here it is. On the flip side, GMs, communicate, dang it! Don't expect your players to read your mind. If you're burning out, if you're struggling, talk about it. Don't just crash and burn. It's far healthier to say, I'm sorry, I have to put the game on hiatus for a while, which my brother did do a few times. Or I'm going to run once every other week now. So much healthier to do that than it is to keep pushing yourself and keep pushing yourself until you burn out and stop having any joy at all from this beloved hobby. Ask me how I know. I'm not Daniel, but yeah, I'm kinda Daniel. I could not agree more with both OP and this comment. By all means, take care of your DMs, especially the good ones who love the game so much and love the joy that the players are taking from the game. Truly treasure those people. Like the Ferengi say, one of the rules of acquisition, a good customer is more precious than latinum. Cherish them. And the same could be said for your DMs. Conversely, if you're burning out, it's up to you to say something. If you're not having a good time, it's up to you to say something. If things are getting hard, it's up to you to say something. You may think that it's written on your face, you may think that it's obvious, but it's not. It rarely is. You have to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs to the people that you love and that you have fun around and that you want to interact with. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart. The next story comes from Jennifer, and it is titled, Librarian Saves the Day. One time, several boys were making so much noise playing Minecraft at the library that I made them get off the library computers and play a quick round of XD20 with me instead. XD20 is Tracy Hickman's boiled down to the bones version of D&D. There is really only one rule. The DM tells you what to roll. You can play as any character you like in any situation you like. So I ran with it when they insisted on still playing Minecraft. I've never played Minecraft myself, but okay. I'm not sure the sort of superpowers they gave to their characters are in the game, though. Player 1 would say, "My character is immortal. Nothing can kill me." Player 2 would say, "Well, my character can kill anything with his mind." It went like that. Kids were extremely creative, but typical fantasy game characters, these were not. I don't even remember the plot because the moment the game started, they turned on each other. Player 1 would say, "I build an impenetrable fortress." Roll. Player 2 would say, "Well, I blow player 1 away with my dragon breath." Roll. Me. Off he goes from the battlements, crisping in the air as he flies. His impenetrable fortress is still there, of course. Player 1. "But I'm immortal, remember? I fly back and attack player 2. Roll. Me. You miss. Player 3, what are you doing? Player 3. "I release gas that no one can breathe and wipe out the planet." Me. Everyone will die in 30 seconds if you don't do something. Players 1 and 2. "We kill him!" Roll. Me. "He's dead, and so are you, because it took 30 seconds to take him out." Player 1 would say, "Nuh-uh, I'm immortal, remember? I just come back to life." I was surprised the session lasted the 20 minutes it did, but they enjoyed it, and it was a bit of a mental workout for me. And hey, it kept them off the computers for a bit. I like this story so much because it highlights one of the greatest unsung heroes of every community I've ever been in, and that is the librarians at your local public library. These people are so much more helpful, so much smarter, so much tougher, so much more resourceful, and so much more of a boon to their communities, as are the public libraries themselves, that just goes unnoticed and unheeded. When my little one was very little, we were very, very broke. And so we went to the library something like 2-3 times a week. And it was a great time every time. We both had a good time, and the librarians were always there to keep things running and to help us out when we asked for it. I got nothing but love for librarians, and to our good friend who wrote this, Miss Jennifer, salute to you. Our next story comes from David, and it's about playing RuneQuest with its notorious fumble table. David writes, "The big bad guy winds up to clock our shortest player character and rolls a fumble. He suffers a critical hit on his own head, ends up killing himself with his own Morning Star. They're almost like nunchucks, so it does make sense. The big bad guy falls on the little player character, pinning that character down. The player has to do a simple dexterity roll to get out from under and join the rest of the battle already in progress. And that poor player rolls a fumble and loses a piece of armor. The next roll fails, and then his next roll fails, and then the next roll fails. Finally, he succeeds, just after all the bad guys have run away or died. And the leader asks, 'Well, where the hell were you? And where's your breastplate? And your pauldrons? And your greaves? And your pants?' The player just laughs for the next 5 minutes, tries to answer, and then laughs some more, before finally getting out that his PC explains. And then the DM says, 'Everybody, roll something complicated, or spend the round laughing.' Half of the party failed that roll in the game, and every single one of us failed it in real life. Everybody has their own things that they get out of D&D or role-playing games, and myself included. There's lots of different joys and emotional moments and different kinds of emotional catharsis, but the moments where the entire table gets the giggles together, that's just the best of all possible moments, and I love this story, and I'm so happy that that David and his friends got to have that experience, and I'm so glad that just That's the reason we keep coming back to this game. Another reason that we keep coming back to these games is because of just the wonderful things we can do with our imaginations. And Braum has written a story that captures it perfectly. And this is the one I've been illustrating the whole time, so I hope it was worth the wait. Here we go. I only played a Necromancer once. I made Snur Le Fleur, the Goblin Necromancer. He got to the level 5 barrier that Necromancers need to get past before you can even start being a Necromancer in the way that it matters. I played him like a big bad evil guy in training, so to speak. He wasn't to be taken too seriously or be some destructive overlord character, and in fact his name can quite intentionally be mispronounced as Snuffler. To which he would take great offense. He was under average size, even for a goblin, with a massive Napoleon complex. Very lazy when it came to off-screen things like walking for hours, and his voice came out at a shriek or a squeal. He would continuously insult others' intellect and introduce himself by ever-changing but ever self-praising titles. He was an opportunist, and also a coward. He would shed that superior air of his whenever an enemy got too strong or too close. It was fun for a while, and I did manage to complete one of my main goals for this little goblin necromage, which was to have, and ride, atop a zombie ogre as a throne. Throger, as it had come to be called, didn't do much. But it didn't need to. Don't underestimate the tactical advantage of a necromancer always being 10 feet up in the air and guarded by an undead creature that can attack or grapple when someone comes too close. Probably the biggest necromancer moment was my city destruction plan. I tried to destroy an entire city with nothing but the help of the party, a cart, a few chests with false bottoms, some rope, beeswax, a tent on long poles, a trip to an ancient dungeon, and a few volunteers. The plan was simple. Grab a shadow, a creature with the ability to make more of its ilk by killing people. Put it in one of those chests using the daylight spell to make it the only dark place nearby. Then, make more shadows by grabbing farmers from their farmsteads and throwing their restrained bodies under the tent to be devoured by the first shadow. Then collapse the tent once the farmers rise as new shadows and force them all into the chests. We made sure to keep those chests sealed with beeswax to keep them light tight as we entered the city. We would go into dark rooms, back alleys, and the sewers, and let the shadows roam free throughout those back alleys and sewers. Once night hit, there would be a whole bunch of shadows that would rise to the surface and start killing people, using their amorphous trait to sneak into houses quietly and just drain people as they slept, creating more ticking shadow time bombs. The plan was to create an exponentially growing population of shadows that would simply overwhelm the city. But the plan failed. Bad dice rolls. A group of NPC adventurers found out while the shadows were still in low numbers. Still, Snur Le Fleur could be a pretty evil lad at times, and just as intentionally annoying goblin the rest of the time. I love this story so much. The visual of a goblin necromancer riding atop a giant zombie ogre is just so funny and so perfect. I had to draw it. I wanted to work that out for myself, and I'm fairly pleased with the results. It took a while, and you know what? I had to do some special research, because as soon as I heard Necromancer riding atop, tiny Necromancer riding atop great big giant guy, I immediately thought, hey, that sounds like Master Blaster from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Wait, I've never seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. How could I possibly draw this character without doing the proper research? So, for the first time in my life, I rented and watched Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome to finally get the Master Blaster references that my brothers had made when I was a kid. Y'all, that movie is a masterpiece. It is not great cinema, but it is a masterpiece. Like Army of Darkness, it's not great cinema, but it's a masterpiece. It's almost the perfect movie, and I highly suggest it. The costumes alone, I'm going to go back, watch the movie again, take a bunch of stills, and start copying costumes so that I've got that visual vocabulary in my back pocket, and try to up my art game in that direction. Awesome movie. Tina Turner made a great villain. I was really surprised. And just cannot recommend it enough. If you'd like the original art from this episode, you can find it on my store on my website at coffeeandhate.biz. Click store at the top, and if it's still in there, I still got it. If you would like some other of my artwork sent directly to you on a monthly basis, and if you know that you're attractive but you just want one more thing to make it official, then may I recommend Gabe's Sticker Club for Attractive People. For $5 a month, you will receive through the mail a 3-inch by 3-inch die-cut vinyl sticker that looks like this, or this one right here. This one is a personal favorite, and I got a lot of good comments on this one. And if you would like similar stickers, then by all means, find me on Patreon. It's patreon.com/coffeeandhate, or you can just Google Gabe's Sticker Club for Attractive People. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. May your dice roll high and never be cursed. I love this cup so much. I just went on like a once-in-a-lifetime vacation with my family. We went to England. I got this cup at Leeds Castle while we were there. Now, you can get this cup probably from Amazon for cheaper than I got it at that gift shop, but this one comes from Leeds Castle, so